Next guest was swept into office on a wave of anger over illegal immigration. Will the same tide come back for the midterms? Dave Brat's a Republican congressman from Virginia, also sits on the House Budget Committee. Okay, so let's talk about this issue of immigration. New polling out from the Wall Street Journal says who would handle this better, and Democrats get the advantage here. I believe 36 to 29% is that poll. They didn't resolve DACA. They'll say you guys didn't resolve DACA. How does it play this fall?
Well, I think you're seeing hints of it in California. They get kind of the advantage on the short first pass, right? So they say we want to help DACA. Then we say we want to help DACA, and they go away on that issue. But in California, they're hitting reality. And so when you see the crime go up and the surge go up, and then you got Texas and New Mexico and Arizona saying, hey, we're going to save the border, and then there's only one border open, I think Californians are going to figure out in pretty short order when they see chaos and lawlessness, and then they got to pay the tax bill. Then you'll see everyone shift toward the Republicans and law and order and border enforcement. And everybody just needs to go back. This has shifted just in the last couple of years. President Obama, when he was Senator Obama in 2005, has on video, he wanted E-Verify, completely legal immigration, strong border. Yeah. No, I know.
I mean, Republicans and Democrats over there, they don't seem to want to do in the Senate.
There's been, in the last couple of years, everything on the left especially has shifted toward identity politics. The Democrats used to care, and they gave the same talking points. Bill Clinton, Schumer, Pelosi, middle class, blue-collar worker. They used to care about that wage rate for the average person. They've given up on that, and they're losing elections. And so I don't think this new identity politics passes, but the hard left is messaging hard on those issues. And so we'll see. I don't think it's a winning message for them.
Well, okay, so the same polling says who would do a better job of handling the economy. Yep. The Republicans come out on top there.
Good.
And yet you're having to answer a lot of questions. I know you just had the break that you guys have, the spring break, where you go home and see and hear a lot from your constituents. After a $1.3 trillion spending bill, you didn't vote for it.
Nope.
But a lot of your colleagues did, Republicans. What did you hear about that?
Well, yeah, the base is very upset on that. That if our brand is anything, it's fiscal responsibility, right? So Republican, that's it, right? You can count on it's bread and butter for us. But the reporting, we don't have much of the press up here, the mainstream media. We don't have any of the Hill rags, et cetera. They misreported, right? The House passed the budget. We plussed up the military, and that's it. Then to get the Senate, 9 Democrat Senate votes, we had to plus it up $400 billion. You've never heard that number in the deficit discussion, right? You hear $150 billion from when we lowered taxes. And if you grow at 3%, they're all paid for. You never hear that reported. And so we did 150, they're paid for, and the economy's growing. Wage rates are up 3%. That's the highest in decades. We're growing at over 3% right now, as opposed to 1.5, 2 Obama years. And so I think the trajectory is there. On the way up, I stopped at Chick-fil-A today for lunch. Had a business owner say,
"Yeah,
no, I know, I should have brought some."
My favorite.
I had one of the business guys in there said, and I hadn't thought about it, but evidence is coming. They're doing the quarterly reporting, right? So they're sending in the first quarter's tax bill, and he said, "I saved 10%." On the entire business.
Businesses,
and so when that news kicks in, I think we're going to be in good shape.
So let's talk about this omnibus. The president, this quote from Paul Winfrey, who used to advise the president, he's with Heritage now. The president's frustrated with omnibus. I also know that his base is frustrated with omnibus. The main question is how big will they go? Because now they're talking about this package of scaling back some of that spending. My understanding, and I don't know exactly how rescission works, but you'd need majorities in both houses to do it. So you're going to have to get some Democrat votes to say, we need to take this back.
Right. I think they're going to kind of rely on money that's left in a few buckets, right? So it's not going to be cuts of programs. It's not going to be picking programs. It's going to be how much money haven't we spent?
But it's small.
The amount,
compared
and it's
to the
small.
$1.3 trillion.
And it's right. And so it's not in that ballpark. And we're putting $1 trillion deficits for the next 10 years on the backs of the kids. And I taught college economics. That's one of the main issues I ran on. So they got $21 trillion in debt now, and then $100 trillion in unfunded liabilities with Medicare and Social Security. And so that's a whopper. And the Democrats, we need to get in a closed room because it's political, right? The economics is not hard to solve. It's all the politics is the hard part to solve. So we need to get everybody together and for the sake of the kids, reach some.
You're not leaving
agreement.
Much money for Chick-fil-A.
No, not. It's we're running out. We're negative 21.
Next time, bring some. Okay?
I'll do it. I promise.
All right, Congressman Brat, good to have you with us.
Thank you, Shannon.
Today's the day. Today is the deadline for filing your 1040 or your 1040EZ or your, well, whatever it is you do to file your taxes at any given time. And join us right now to talk about this year's tax day, what next year's tax day might look like, and even more importantly, I think, what tax days in the future should look like. We are joined by Representative Dave Brat of the Commonwealth of Virginia. Happy Tax Day to you, Congressman.
Yeah, happy tax day, Larry. Thanks.
Well, first of all, thanks to the tax cut bill and reform bill that was passed in December, this tax day is sort of the last bad tax day for a lot of people, right? Or maybe not bad tax day, but it's going to be a lot different next year.
Yeah. Well, we're going to simplify, get down to a shorter, 1 or 2 page for the individual income tax. Small business, we still got some work to do. I chaired a committee today. And there's still a lot of complexity for the small business person and a lot of fees and damage we're doing to them. If we get rid of that regulatory component, we will see even more economic growth. And that's the main target, right? The Democrats agreed this morning. You don't get economic growth, you don't get education and roads and all that stuff. And so we're growing at 3% now. That's the big new shocker, right? CBO came out and said you're growing at 3.3. If you grow at 3, we pay for our tax cut. There's the most misinformation on that issue, right? That the Republicans are running this, $2 trillion in debt, and the taxes are $150 billion a year. And if you grow at 3, you pay for it. And at the end of the year, in the budget process, we had to give the Democrats $400 billion to get a spending bill through.
Yeah.
And so I think it's important to correct the record. And Republicans should be even better, right? On the tax side, we're great, but on the spending side, we goofed up. So we got to improve. But again, the Democrats, in the progressive budget they had this year, they increased taxes $10 trillion. I'm not making that number up. And they increased spending $11 trillion. And so the press never covers the Democrat side of the aisle on those issues for obvious reasons, because those policies will put you in a recession tomorrow.
Well, and I got to ask you, Representative Brat, I keep hearing how the Democrats, the blue wave is just going to wash over the country and you guys are going to lose your majority on Capitol Hill. Where are the political ads right now reminding every single voter in every single district that none of these Democrats voted for this pretty great tax cut that people are enjoying right now?
Yeah, well, that's the right question. I don't get our leadership on that stuff. I mean, Paul Ryan is so smart on policy, but then our conference doesn't follow up and hit it out of the park with the ads, right? So we've done great stuff, but the ads aren't there. And similarly, in Virginia on immigration, Governor Northam ran against sanctuary cities, and last week, what's he do? He vetoes a bill, and now Virginia is a home for sanctuary cities. I mean, these are major policy pieces with a stark contrast between Republicans and Democrats, and there's 70, 80% issues with the people where we're winning. Wages are up 3%. Growth is up to 3%. In the Obama years, they were both at 1 or 2% max. And so we got a lot to brag about, but we're not good at getting it out, and the Democrats are just better at hardcore political fighting.
Let me ask you this, back to the tax question, though. By the way, we saw reports that the IRS electronic system was down. There was a glitch of some kind, so everyone who's waiting and doing their last-minute filing today got stuck with an error message. Do you have any update as to the status of that system?
No, I don't have an update. I read something funny from Kevin Brady or something. They said it's game day for the IRS, and they can't get out of the locker room.
Well, yeah.
And so it's pretty embarrassing, and we've got to get this right for the American people. This is what the American people have to suffer through. It slows business down instead of speeding it up, and so we got plenty of work left to do.
If you and your colleagues on the Republican side of the ledger had the wherewithal and the opportunity to chuck out the tax code as it is right now and start from scratch, what would that look like to you, assuming that we do have to have some kind of income tax? What is the better way to tax the American people?
Well, that's what's tough. I mean, it's better if you just flatten everything. So everybody's paying the same rate, and then you keep a safety welfare net at the bottom of it, right? And that gets you the biggest bang for the buck and the most growth, but you also run into every single special interest up here. And so that's why it never happens. And so we got some of the way there. We flattened out some of it. We got rid of a bunch of special interests in this go-around. And I'm not making the story up. On the way up, I stopped in a Chick-fil-A, talked to a business owner, And one thing I didn't realize is people are already putting in their quarterly prepayments for tax, right, on the business side.
Sure.
And this guy said mine are 10% less. He's 10% savings on his business profit, which flow through to his personal income. That's a big deal.
That's a huge story. That's a huge story, and that means that the benefits to the economy, because that business owner is now not going to go, he's not going to go to Hawaii with that. We know what he does. He reinvests in his company and his employees, and we should start feeling that within the next quarter.
Yeah, right, and that's just some of the stuff. We try to tell the story as best we can, but there's those good news pieces like, you don't have to wait till the end of the year, right? Businesses are doing their quarterly estimates, every self-employed person, every salesperson, all that. They're going to be seeing some immediate effects. We're going to have, we can capture all of those stories and highlight those going forward through November. And then hopefully we do welfare to work and some other good stuff. People are stuck in poverty traps from the financial crisis that was caused by Fannie and Freddie. And we got to do better. And then you just see a flood of monopolies up here now, right? You got Google and Facebook and Amazon and big banks and big insurance, the Unaffordable Care Act. Now there's 2 or 3 big insurance companies, and that's it. Your premiums are going through the roof. This is all due to increasing power and cronies and lawyers up in D.C.
Yeah.
And the Republican platform is exactly the opposite. The Democrats want to increase the power of all these groups and of the federal government. The Republicans want to shrink that power on behalf of the small business person. And so there's a stark contrast we can paint if we get our story straight.
Representative Dave Brat of Virginia, I appreciate you joining us on this tax day. I know it's a busy day, so you can go out and make your argument. Hey, real fast, I don't want to get you in trouble or anything, but do you think it's the best thing for the Republicans going into the midterm to have Paul Ryan sort of as a lame duck? Shouldn't he step down now so we can sort of move on with the new leadership?
Well, it's a tough one either way. You don't also want to have leadership fights going into the election, right? And so, if there was some, clear, easy contender or whatever, that'd be one thing. But there's a few folks putting their names out. And so it's a tough one. I want to see the Freedom Caucus, and I ran on principles. I want to just see us put out principles and have these candidates get out in front of the American people and say, hey, here's where I stand on these set of principles. And not only promise, but sign their name to it, right? Up here in D.C., people make promises every day.
I'll say.
Let's see it in writing.
Yeah, tell me about it, like that whole repeal Obamacare thing. Thanks for joining us, Representative Dave Brat of Virginia.
A lot of those gains a lot of people have made in the markets are translating to revenue in Washington, D.C., about $3.4 trillion worth. The problem is we spend almost $1 trillion more than that. So that's a problem, according to my next guest, Representative Dave Brat from the beautiful state of Virginia. Remember, he was in that insurgent wave of one that toppled, a monolith called Eric Cantor. That was then. This is now. Good to see you, sir.
Great to have you live.
One of your big issues had been what got you to power was how do we account for that money? What's happening to that money? What's happening to these debt? And we're a few trillion more in debt since then. What's going on?
Yeah, well, the spending probably more than anything else represents the swamp. So we did tax cuts, and that's producing economic growth. That'll probably pay for the tax cuts. I think the CBO this week said we're going to grow at 3.3. 3% covers the growth, but that's only half of the problem, right? The other half of the problem is the spending side. And we've shown no ability, and I think on your show we covered earlier last month, the Senate has said we're not even going to do a budget next year. We're not even going to do a budget, right? And so that's our only ability to do big, powerful Republican policy with 51 votes in the Senate.
So you think this is the Senate's fault?
A lot of it. The House passed a budget. We did not. We plussed up the military. We still had big deficit, right? But we're trying to contain it somewhat. And then to get the 9 Senate Democrat votes, we had to plus it up $400 billion. And that wasn't widely reported. Some of the financial shows, like you guys, get into the weeds, but very few of the top line news got into that negotiation, right? That to get the 9 Senate Democrat votes. And then earlier in the year, the biggest block of Democrat votes was for the Progressive Caucus budget. Right. It's a real budget, 107 votes. And they wanted to increase taxes $10 trillion. People won't believe that's true. But today, the Pelosi and Schumer are out there marching to increase your taxes.
Well, they're saying they want to rip up, I don't know if she's still speaking outside,
yeah.
But that rip up the tax package now, start from scratch, do something that benefits more average folks, and not your rich buddies, you say.
Yeah, I say I'm the only guy that got a pay raise when I came up here. Right? I was a liberal arts professor teaching economics. I'm not beholden to anyone. I ran for the small guy. All the policies.
But even you're taking heat in your district. It's like they have the knives out for everyone.
Well, I think that's the problem. It's just political right now. It's not based in economic reality.
Are you worried about this blue wave? I mean, the 40th Republican announcing this morning he's not running for re-election. In fact, Congressman Dent of Pennsylvania is leaving in the next few weeks. I don't know the full story there, but it's a conga line.
Yeah.
What's going on?
Well, it's rough, and the politics right now isn't allowing a policy debate. It's all on politics, and CNN is wall-to-wall Russia investigations, all these controversial stories.
Well, why are you watching CNN?
I just, once in a while, I turn away from your show for a minute.
Right.
But nothing
That's
on
all right.
content.
This interview was looking promising.
Right, I know.
Right.
No Obamacare debate.
Right.
Premiums are through the roof. Immigration, our governor ran as a centrist in Virginia, Northam, promised no sanctuary cities. Last week, he vetoes a bill. Now we're going to have sanctuary cities in Virginia. I don't think Virginians get what's coming their way, right? You go Google Paris and Amsterdam and London right now and take a look at what immigration policy run amok looks like. It's not pleasant.
Well, what do you think separately of the president's effort to look at that $1.3 trillion omnibus spending package and start rescinding a lot of it? Some of your colleagues worry that he doesn't have the power to do that and shouldn't do that. It's a slippery slope, you say.
I say you're already hearing the pushback. He should obviously do that. The budget's out of control. The spending's out of control. The first word was he was just going to be able to trim away a little bit of existing money that's still in pots,
right?
Not really go after spending reductions.
So of the 1.3 trillion, I'm told maybe a couple of, a couple of $100 billion, right? In the scheme of things, it's not really going to move the needle, is it?
Right. It's nothing. And the Senate today, the head of the Senate Budget Committee, Enzi, said we're so out of control, he may not even write a budget, right? People don't understand the distinctions between writing a budget. That's kind of your cheerleading document.
He's also talked about taking his committee out altogether.
Yeah, just taking it out of commission.
What would that prove?
It would just prove that spending here is out of control. We usually try to write budgets that balance in 10 years. And this will just show we can't get there.
But Congressman, this is the whole thing that Republicans were going to stop, right?
Yep.
I mean, you're the party of fiscal austerity. You were elected responding to fiscal abuse and all of that. And Americans, maybe this is why the party collectively is in trouble in the polls, hasn't lived up to what it's supposedly all about. Does that bother you that Americans are saying, you're worse than the Democrats?
It doesn't bother me because philosophically we're right. But Mitch McConnell and Paul Ryan have to get out and explain this, right? So when it comes to budget time, our party wants to hold the line or reduce somewhat, right? Not enough. But what's the other side? The blue wave, they actually, in the midst of this anxiety and anger and foul language spewing all over the blogs, whatever, they want to increase the size of the federal government. The very thing that is probably causing
so did you, right? I mean, you made the government bigger.
Oh, I voted no. I was a dead no on that.
No, but I'm saying Republicans, the government is the biggest it's ever been.
Yeah, and that's why we need to offer up an agenda before November.
Well, Ryan is not running for election, so he's out. Do you have a candidate for that job that you think would do a better job of addressing your concerns?
Well, I always try to keep away from the personalities, but I ran on the Republican creed. There's nothing wrong with the creed except we don't follow it. Right, so I'm going to put down with the Freedom Caucus, hopefully, some principles, right?
Reducing the size. Would someone from the Freedom Caucus, maybe yourself, be running for that job?
I think Jim Jordan said he's willing to put his name forward. We'll see how that emerges. Kevin McCarthy
and Steve Scalise, the names most often mentioned. You're not keen on?
Well, I just want to hear their responses, right? So Paul Ryan said he was going to put 5 of the Goodlatte bills on the floor, and that we were going to pass the Goodlatte immigration bill, right? So the Democrats want DACA, we gave them DACA, and now they're running away from that, right? They just want political issues instead of solving problems. So we need to tell the American people, hey, we're putting forward policy the Democrats are blocking across the board.
Well, do you think it would be wise for Paul Ryan to step down now, to get a new speaker now while you guys are still in charge, or wait till January?
No, I think, Paul's got the conference unified. He's got to move forward with a positive agenda, right? The Goodlatte bill, welfare.
No, I know that, but the fear is that this lightning will only strike once here, that it doesn't look good for you in November. It could change, to your point.
Yeah.
But strike while it's hot. And what now? You've got the majority.
I'd rather avoid all the drama. This town's got too much drama. Let's just do economics. Skip the drama, all economics. Paul can lead us on the Goodlatte bill, welfare to work. That's his life's work, right? welfare, Social Security, making some big fixes on the entitlement side. That's 75% of the budget. So if we can fix that
Is the president as concerned about this spending as you are?
He says he's upset with the Omni bill, but the spending, we need him in the bully pulpit explaining, right, this is still the #1 threat to national security, right? The debt bomb, the interest payments.
I don't see him alarmed by it.
I know. He needs to show that more. He needs to show, hey, this is...
And you don't think he has?
Not enough. Not enough. And especially on the mandatory side, right? The kids, those programs are insolvent, Medicare and Social Security in 2034. If we don't fix them, the kids don't get them. And so everybody talks about the kids and compassion and all this kind of thing, but compassion is in the dollars, right? And so if you're really compassionate, you want to keep those programs for the kids over the long run. And no one up here, that's got to be in private, right? That's a political bomb.
Right.
And so everybody's got to get behind a door and say, hey, let's make a deal for the kids. And I think we're capable of that.
All right, we'll see what happens.
Yep.
Congressman, very good
Hey,
seeing you
great to have you here.
All right.
Awesome. Yeah, you bet.
Economics
Thanks, Neil.
professor did good.